The coins clinked against each other as Maya Chen's trembling fingers counted them on the pharmacy counter. 27.43 tos in quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. The last of her money until her unemployment check arrived next week. Fluorescent lights overhead cast harsh shadows across her exhausted face. At 24, she looked older, dark circles ringing her eyes from countless sleepless nights. 7 months pregnant, she stood there, one hand protectively cradling her swollen belly. "I'm sorry about the coins," Maya whispered to the cashier, a middle-aged woman whose name tag read Betty. The line behind her was growing. She could feel the weight of impatient stares on her back. Betty smiled kindly. "Don't you worry, honey. Money is money." She began counting the pile with practiced efficiency. Maya clutched the prenatal vitamins tightly. Her doctor had been insistent. The prescription strength ones, not the over-the-counter variety. Her iron levels were dangerously low, compounding the fatigue of pregnancy. These vitamins cost nearly 3 times the regular ones, a devastating blow to Maya's meticulously planned budget. But her baby's health came first. Always. Life hadn't always been this hard. 2 years ago, Maya had been climbing the corporate ladder at Riverside Digital, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in Seattle. She just received a promotion to marketing manager when she met Ryan at a company party. Handsome, charming, seemingly kind, Ryan swept her off her feet. Their whirlwind romance led to moving in together within 4 months. Then came the gradual changes. Ryan grew controlling, isolating her from friends and family. When she became pregnant, a surprise, but a welcome one, things deteriorated further. 3 months into her pregnancy, she came home to find the apartment emptied of his belongings and a coldly written note. "I never signed up for this." The sharp voice of a man behind her cut through her memories. "Is there a problem here?" Maya turned slightly, clutching the vitamin bottle tighter. The man standing behind her was tall and impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent had been. His steel-grey eyes looked irritated. He checked his expensive watch pointedly. "No problem, sir," Betty said, still counting coins. "Just give us a minute." The man sighed loudly. "I have a meeting in 15 minutes. Maya felt her face burn with shame. "I'm sorry," she murmured, not meeting his eyes. "I can step aside if you want to go ahead." Something in her voice made the man pause. He glanced at what she was purchasing, then at her worn coat and the simple gold wedding band she still wore, unable to part with it despite everything, as it had been her grandmother's. Betty finished counting. "You're short 3.18, honey." Maya's stomach dropped. She'd counted wrong in her exhaustion. "Oh, Her voice faltered as she frantically searched her purse, knowing there was nothing more to find. She would have to put the vitamins back, risk her baby's health. "I'll cover whatever else she needs," the man behind her said suddenly, his tone markedly different, softer somehow. Maya turned in surprise. "No, please, that's not necessary." "It's $3, he said with a dismissive wave. "Consider it paid forward." Before she could protest further, he handed a 20 to Betty. "Keep the change." "Thank you," Maya whispered, blinking back tears. "I promise I'll pay you back." The man studied her face for a moment. "Do I know you from somewhere?" Maya shook her head, gathering the bagged vitamins. "I don't think so." As she hurried toward the exit, Her phone rang. It was Dr. Patel's office, her OB. Her heart raced. They never called unless something was urgent. "Ms. Chen, we need you to come in right away. Your latest blood work shows some concerning levels. We need to monitor you immediately." The world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. "I'm coming right now," she managed to say, before ending the call. She rushed outside into the cold November air, her mind racing. The bus wouldn't come for another 20 minutes, and a taxi would cost money she didn't have. "Is everything all right?" The man from the pharmacy had followed her outside. Up close, there was something vaguely familiar about him, but Maya couldn't place it through her panic. "I need to get to my doctor. It's urgent. But I live. The clinic is 15 blocks away." She was already walking, calculating how fast she could make it on foot while 7 months pregnant. "I have a car. I can drive you." Maya hesitated. Getting into a car with a stranger went against every safety rule. But her baby needed her. "Why would you help me?" The man's expression softened further. "Because someone once helped me when I needed it most." He extended his hand. "I'm Daniel Riverside." The name hit her like a physical blow. Daniel Riverside, CEO of Riverside Digital, the company where she had once worked. No wonder he'd looked familiar. His picture had been all over the company website and annual reports. "Maya Chen," she replied automatically, shaking his hand. A flash of recognition crossed his face. "Chen? Wait, Maya Chen from marketing. You disappeared almost 18 months ago. Gave your 2 weeks' notice by email and never even came back to clean out your desk." She swallowed hard. "Yes, that was me. I'm sorry about that. But I really need to go now." Daniel's expression was unreadable as he guided her to a sleek black car parked nearby. "Get in. You can explain on the way." The interior of the car was warm and smelled of expensive leather. As Daniel pulled away from the curb, Maya gave him directions in a shaky voice. Her mind was racing. Of all the people to run into today, why did it have to be her former boss? "You were one of our most promising managers," Daniel said quietly as he drove. "Everyone was shocked when you left. Lisa in HR tried calling you multiple times." Maya stared out the window. "It's complicated. We have at least 10 minutes. Try me." So she did. In halting sentences, she explained about Ryan, the isolation, the pregnancy, and finally his abandonment. With each word, Daniel's knuckles grew whiter on the steering wheel. "You never told anyone at work what was happening." "I was ashamed," she admitted. "And by the time he left, I was 4 months pregnant, with no support system. I couldn't face coming back." Daniel pulled up in front of a medical building. Before she could thank him and rush out, he turned to her with an intensity that stopped her cold. "Why didn't you ever tell me what happened to you?" he asked, his voice strangely emotional. "We could have helped." Something in his tone made Maya look at him more carefully. There was more to his question than professional concern, something personal in his eyes that made her heart race for an entirely different reason. Then her phone rang again. Dr. Patel's office. The baby needed her. Whatever Daniel Riverside meant by his question would have to wait. "I have to go," she said, grabbing the vitamins and rushing from the car. "Thank you for the ride." As she ran toward the building entrance, she didn't see Daniel make a phone call or hear him say, "Cancel my meetings for the rest of the day. Something more important has come up." Maya burst through the doors, breathless despite the short distance. The receptionist, recognizing the urgency, immediately ushered her back. Dr. Patel, a warm woman in her 50s, greeted her with professional concern. "How are you feeling, Maya?" "Tired. But isn't that normal?" Maya's hand went instinctively to her belly, where the baby had been unusually quiet today. "Your iron levels are critically low," Dr. Patel explained, studying the chart. "Combined with your blood pressure readings, I'm concerned about preeclampsia. We need to monitor you closely. I may need to admit you for observation." Maya's heart sank. Hospital admission meant bills she couldn't afford, days away from job hunting, more dependence on Mrs. Patterson, her elderly neighbor who'd been her lifeline these past months. "How long?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "At least 48 hours, possibly longer, depending on your readings." As if on cue, there was a knock at the examination room door. The nurse poked her head in. "Dr. Patel, there's a Mr. Riverside in the waiting room asking about Ms. Chen. He says he drove her here." Maya and Dr. Patel exchanged glances. "He can come back," Maya said, surprising herself. Maybe it was the fear, or the loneliness, or simply the fact that Daniel had already witnessed her at her lowest. What did it matter if he saw more? Daniel entered, his tall frame making the small examination room feel even more cramped than usual. His eyes went immediately to Maya on the table, then to Dr. Patel. "I apologize for intruding," he said. "I wanted to make sure everything was all right." Dr. Patel looked between them, assessing. "Maya needs to be admitted for monitoring. Her condition requires careful observation over the next few days." "What can be done?" Daniel asked, addressing the doctor, but his eyes on Maya. "We monitor, we wait, we adjust medications as needed. The goal is to keep both mother and baby safe until we reach a point where delivery is the safest option." "I'll need to make some calls," Maya said, her mind already spinning with logistics. "Mrs. Patterson needs to know, and I need to contact my landlord about next week's rent." "I'll take care of whatever needs to be handled," Daniel interrupted gently. "You've already done too much." "I can't accept—" "Maya," he interrupted gently. "Let me help, please." There was something in his expression, a sadness, a determination, that stopped her protests. She nodded wordlessly, too exhausted to argue further. 2 hours later, Maya was settled in a hospital room, hooked up to monitors that tracked her vitals and the baby's heartbeat. The steady thump, thump, thump was reassuring, a reminder that despite everything, life persisted. Daniel had stayed, making calls from the hallway, speaking in low tones to people Maya couldn't identify. "Thank you," Maya said softly when he returned. "I don't know what I would have done today without your help." Daniel's hands tightened slightly around the water bottle he'd gotten from the vending machine. "I'm glad I was there." After a pause, he added, "I meant what I asked earlier, Maya. Why didn't you tell anyone at Riverside what was happening? We had programs, resources that could have helped." Maya looked down at her swollen belly, where the baby kicked gently against her hands. "Shame is a powerful silencer," she said finally. "And Ryan, he was very good at making me feel like everything was my fault. By the time I realized how isolated I'd become, it seemed too late." "It's never too late," Daniel said, his voice carrying an intensity that made her look up. He moved closer to her bed, his expression serious. "My sister went through something similar. Abusive boyfriend, cut off from family, nowhere to turn. The difference is she didn't make it out." The simple statement hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken grief. "I'm so sorry," Maya whispered. "It was 6 years ago," Daniel said, his voice rough. "She was pregnant too. Lost the baby at 5 months from the stress." Understanding dawned on Maya. "That's why you helped me today." A sad smile touched his lips. "Initially, yes. You reminded me of Sarah." He shook his head slightly. "But then, when I realized who you were," he paused. "Do you know you were nominated for the Leadership Development Program right before you left? The board had unanimously approved fast-tracking your career." Maya's breath caught. She had worked so hard for that opportunity, never knowing she'd achieved it. Another casualty of Ryan's control. "Life takes unexpected turns," she said softly. A nurse entered to check her vitals, and Daniel stepped out to give her privacy. When he returned, there was a new resolve in his expression. "Maya, I have a proposition for you," he said. "Riverside is launching a new community wellness initiative. We need someone with marketing experience to head it up. The position comes with flexible hours, remote work options, and full medical benefits that would cover your pregnancy and delivery." Maya stared at him, speechless. Was he offering her a job after everything? "I don't want charity," she said finally, her pride still intact despite everything. "This isn't charity," Daniel replied firmly. "This is recognizing talent and offering an opportunity. You were one of our best, Maya. We lost you once because the system failed you. I don't want to make that mistake again." Before she could respond, the baby kicked hard, making her wince. Daniel's eyes dropped to where her hand pressed against her belly. "When are you due?" he asked, his voice gentler. 8 weeks. End of January." "Boy or girl?" "Girl. I'm naming her Sophia." Maya's voice softened. "After my grandmother." Something flickered in Daniel's expression. Tenderness, perhaps, or recognition. "That's a beautiful name." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the steady beep of monitors filling the space between them. Finally, Maya spoke. "There's something else you should know, Daniel. Something about Ryan." She'd learned 3 weeks ago, through a chance encounter with his sister at a grocery store, that Ryan had returned to Seattle, that he was working in tech again, spinning lies about his past, pretending the last 18 months, pretending Maya and Sophia had never existed. "I'm listening," Daniel said, leaning forward. Maya took a deep breath. "He's back in Seattle, and according to his sister, he's telling people he spent the last 1.5 years traveling abroad for work." She laughed bitterly. "He's erasing us, like we never happened." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Has he tried to contact you?" "Not once. No child support, no check-ins, nothing. I tried to reach him when I first found out I was pregnant, but he blocked my number. Blocked me on everything." That's abandonment, Daniel said quietly. You could pursue legal action. With what money? What lawyer? Maya shook her head. I've been surviving, Daniel. That's all I could manage. Justice felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. He was quiet for a long moment, his grey eyes thoughtful. What if I told you that Ryan Barrett just applied for a senior position at Riverside Digital? That his interview is scheduled for next week? The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Maya felt her mouth go dry. What? He applied under his full name, Ryan James Barrett. Listed impressive credentials, claimed he spent the last 18 months as a marketing consultant for international tech firms. Daniel's voice was hard now. He listed you as a reference. Anger flashed through her, hot and sudden. Me. After everything he did? She shifted in the hospital bed, the monitors beeping faster as her heart rate increased. He abandoned his pregnant girlfriend, took half our savings, and hasn't sent a single dollar for his daughter's care. And he has the audacity to use my name. There's more, Daniel said quietly. His resume claims he was a marketing director at several firms that don't exist. I had our HR department run background checks. The entire work history for the past 18 months is fabricated. Maya stared at him, stunned. He always was a convincing liar. His interview is scheduled for next week, Daniel continued. With his qualifications, fake as they are, he would likely have gotten the job. The salary starts at $125,000. The figure hung in the air between them. More money than Maya had ever made, even during her best years at Riverside, and all while she counted pennies for prenatal vitamins. What are you going to do? She asked finally. That depends on you, Daniel replied. Legally, I can't refuse to interview him based on his personal history, but falsifying employment records is grounds for immediate disqualification. If you were willing to provide a statement about his fraudulent claims and about his abandonment of you and Sophia, it would give us clear grounds to reject his application. Maya's hand went to her belly again, feeling Sophia's movements beneath her palm. Somewhere out there, Ryan was living his life as if they didn't exist, as if the promises he'd made to Maya had never been spoken. He doesn't deserve that job, she said finally. But more importantly, he doesn't deserve to get away with lying. She turned back to Daniel. I'll write the statement. Relief crossed Daniel's face. Thank you. I'll have my assistant bring the paperwork tomorrow. Why did you really come here tonight, Daniel? Maya asked suddenly. You could have called to tell me about Ryan. You could have sent an email about the job offer. Why are you really here? Daniel's expression softened. Because 18 months ago, a bright, talented woman disappeared from my company. And today, I found her counting pennies for prenatal vitamins. He hesitated, then continued more quietly. Because you remind me that second chances are possible, and I need to believe that right now. There was something vulnerable in his admission, something that hinted at deeper waters. Maya found herself wanting to know more about this man who had upended her day in the most unexpected ways. Are you always this involved with your employees' lives? She asked, a small smile softening her words. Only the exceptional ones, he replied, returning her smile. The moment stretched between them, comfortable and somehow familiar, until a nurse entered to check Maya's IV. "I should go," Daniel said, standing. "You need rest." At the door, he hesitated. "About the job offer. It's genuine, Maya. Take a few days to think about it, but know that the position is yours if you want it." "Thank you," she said, meaning it for everything. The help with the vitamins, the ride, staying with her, and now this unexpected opportunity. "I'll think about it." After Daniel left, Maya placed both hands on her belly. Feeling Sophia's reassuring movements, sleep claimed her slowly, but her dreams were troubled. Ryan's face morphing into shadowy figures, Daniel standing just out of reach, Sophia crying for her from somewhere she couldn't find. She woke to sunlight streaming through the hospital blinds and the sound of her phone buzzing insistently. The screen showed a number she didn't recognize. Hesitantly, she answered. Maya Chen. A woman's crisp, professional voice came through the line. "Ms. Chen, this is Sandra Wei, Mr. Riverside's executive assistant. He asked me to check on you this morning. How are you feeling?" Surprised by the follow-up, Maya glanced at the monitors beside her bed. Her numbers had stabilized overnight. "Better, I think. They might let me go home today, if my levels stay steady." "I'm glad to hear it," Sandra replied, her tone warming slightly. "Mr. Riverside has asked me to deliver some paperwork regarding the position he discussed with you, along with the statement about Ryan Barrett. Would this afternoon work if you're released?" "Yes, that's fine," Maya said, wondering just how much Sandra knew about her situation. "Excellent. Oh, and one more thing. Mr. Riverside would like to know if you would join him for dinner this evening, assuming you're discharged. He mentioned wanting to discuss the community wellness initiative in more detail." The invitation caught Maya off guard. "Dinner? He suggested Bella Vista at 6:30. They have private dining rooms if you're concerned about comfort after your hospital stay." Bella Vista was one of Seattle's most upscale Italian restaurants, the kind of place Maya hadn't been able to afford even before Sophia came along. "I don't think I have anything appropriate to wear," she admitted. "Don't worry about that," Sandra said easily. "Business casual is fine. Mr. Riverside will be coming directly from meetings all day." After ending the call, Maya sat in the hospital bed, one hand on her belly, where Sophia kicked gently. The baby seemed more active this morning, reassured perhaps by her mother's steadier heartbeat. Dr. Patel entered during morning rounds, reviewing Maya's chart with approval. "Your levels have improved significantly. I'm comfortable discharging you with strict instructions for bed rest and follow-up appointments." "Bed rest?" Maya's heart sank. "For how long?" "Until delivery. I know that's challenging, but it's necessary to protect both you and the baby." Maya nodded, already calculating the implications. No work meant no income. But what choice did she have? At precisely 3 o'clock, a knock came at her door. Sandra Wei was younger than Maya had expected, perhaps in her early 30s, with a sleek bob and intelligent eyes that missed nothing as she took in the hospital room. "Ms. Chen, a pleasure to meet you," she said, extending a hand. "I've brought the paperwork Mr. Riverside mentioned." As Maya signed her discharge papers, Sandra placed a sleek folder on the bedside table. "These are the details of the position he's offering, along with the statement regarding Ryan Barrett for you to review and sign if you agree with the content." Maya scanned the documents, her eyes widening. The job description was impressive enough, Senior Director of Community Wellness, but the salary figure made her breath catch. It was nearly triple what she'd been making before she left Riverside. "There must be some mistake," she said, pointing to the number. Sandra shook her head. "No mistake. That's the approved salary for this position." "It seems excessive for a role that's essentially community relations," Maya pressed. A slight smile touched Sandra's lips. "The position reports directly to the CEO and requires extensive experience in marketing, project management, and community building, all skills you've demonstrated in your previous role. The salary is commensurate with the responsibility. Plus, given your medical situation, the benefits package is comprehensive." Before Maya could argue further, Sophia kicked hard, making her wince. Sandra's eyes moved to Maya's belly, her expression unreadable. "When are you due?" she asked. 8 weeks. Sandra checked her watch. "I should be going. Mr. Riverside will meet you at Bella Vista at 6:30. The reservation is under his name." She paused at the door. "One more thing, Miss Chen. The statement about Ryan Barrett. There's something you should know before you sign it." Maya felt a chill at Sandra's tone. "What is it?" "Ryan Barrett isn't just applying to Riverside. He's being actively recruited by several major companies in Seattle, all using the same fraudulent resume. And," Sandra hesitated, "he's engaged to be married to Catherine Vance." The name hit Maya like a physical blow. Catherine Vance, daughter of Robert Vance, one of Seattle's wealthiest venture capitalists and a major investor in Riverside Digital. "I see," Maya said, her voice barely audible over the sudden roaring in her ears. "Mr. Riverside felt you should have all the information before making your decision," Sandra said gently. "I'll see you this evening." As the door closed behind Sandra, Maya sank back against the pillows, one hand protective over her belly. The pieces were falling into place now. Daniel's unusual interest, the generous job offer, the dinner invitation. This wasn't just about her talent or his sister's memory. This was about power and money and connections, and Maya had just become a pawn in a much larger game. Bella Vista glowed with warm light against the darkening evening sky as Maya approached. She had spent the afternoon in a state of agitated contemplation, alternating between anger at Ryan's continued deception and suspicion about Daniel's true motives. The revelation about Catherine Vance had been particularly disturbing. Maya had met Catherine once at a Riverside function, tall, poised, unmistakably privileged. The idea that Ryan had managed to ingratiate himself with the Vance family spoke volumes about his ambition and charm, the same charm that had once swept Maya off her feet. She paused outside the restaurant, smoothing down her navy maternity dress with one nervous hand. It was the nicest thing she owned, purchased on clearance months ago for a friend's baby shower she'd ultimately been too exhausted to attend. "We can do this, Sophia," she thought, feeling her daughter's movements beneath her palm. Taking a deep breath, Maya pushed open the heavy wooden door. The maitre d' greeted her with professional courtesy, not batting an eye at her obvious pregnancy. "Ms. Chen, Mr. Riverside is waiting for you in the Tuscany room." He led her through the main dining area, past tables of well-dressed patrons, enjoying fine wines and expensive meals. Maya felt conspicuously out of place, aware of her simple dress and swollen ankles in practical flats. But Sophia kicked reassuringly, as if to say, "We belong here too." The Tuscany room was a small private dining area, warmly lit and decorated with tasteful Italian landscapes. Daniel stood as they entered, coming forward immediately to greet them. "Maya, thank you for coming," he said, his smile genuine. His eyes dropped to her belly. "How are you both feeling tonight?" "Better," Maya replied. "Dr. Patel cleared me for light activity as long as I'm careful." Daniel had shed his formal business attire for dark slacks and a blue button-down shirt, the sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. The more casual look suited him, softening his CEO persona into something more approachable. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to the elegantly set table. The thoughtfulness of the gesture, pulling out her chair, adjusting it for her pregnant frame, momentarily disarmed Maya's prepared defenses. Once they were seated, a waiter appeared with menus and a wine list. Daniel ordered sparkling water for both of them. "Everything here is excellent, but their butternut squash risotto is particularly good," he said. Maya nodded, scanning the menu without really seeing it. She needed to address the elephant in the room before she could think about food. "Sandra told me about Catherine Vance," she said abruptly, setting down her menu. "And about Ryan being recruited by other companies." Daniel's expression remained steady. "I thought you should know the full situation." "What I don't understand is why you care so much," Maya pressed. "Ryan lied on his resume, yes. That's grounds for rejecting his application. But this dinner, the job offer, all of it seems excessive for simply avoiding a bad hire." Daniel took a moment before responding, his grey eyes serious. "You're right to question my motives, Maya. The truth is, this situation has become more complicated than a simple case of resume fraud." He leaned forward slightly. "Robert Vance is not just an investor in Riverside. He's pushing to become the majority shareholder, which would effectively give him control of the company." "And you don't want that to happen," Maya guessed. "No, I don't. Vance views Riverside as nothing more than a financial asset. He would gut our community programs, outsource most of our jobs overseas, and focus exclusively on short-term profits." The waiter returned with their water, giving Maya a moment to process. Once he'd taken their orders, she chose the risotto more to buy time than from any real appetite. She turned back to Daniel. "So you want me to sign that statement to discredit Ryan and weaken Vance's position?" she concluded, a bitter edge to her voice. "Yes," Daniel admitted honestly. "But that's not the only reason I offered you the job. Isn't it? The community wellness position seems conveniently created just when you need to counter Vance's influence." Daniel's expression was unreadable. "The community wellness initiative has been in development for months, Maya. I was planning to launch it next quarter, but recent events accelerated the timeline." He took a sip of his water. "I won't pretend there isn't a strategic advantage to highlighting Riverside's community commitment right now. But the position is real, and you are genuinely the most qualified person I know to lead it." "Let's say I believe you about the job," Maya said finally. "What happens after I sign the statement about Ryan? What happens to him?" "He doesn't get the job at Riverside. His fraud becomes known to other potential employers. And Robert Vance discovers that his future son-in-law has been less than honest about his professional credentials." "It would destroy him," Maya said softly. "Yes, Daniel agreed without apology. It would. Maya thought of the empty apartment, the drained bank accounts, the months of struggling alone while her body changed and grew. She thought of counting coins for prenatal vitamins while Ryan courted a socialite and leveraged stolen information for personal gain. Most of all, she thought of Sophia, her daughter, who would never know her father because he'd chosen to pretend she didn't exist. "I'll sign it," she said, her decision crystallizing. "Not for you or for Riverside, but because it's the truth. And because Sophia deserves better than a father who pretends she doesn't exist." Relief washed over Daniel's features. "Thank you." Their meals arrived, the conversation shifting to lighter topics as they ate. Daniel asked about her pregnancy, sharing stories of his niece at the same age. Maya found herself relaxing despite her initial suspicions, drawn in by his genuine interest and surprising warmth. As they shared a panna cotta for dessert, Daniel brought the conversation back to business. "There's one more thing you should know, Maya, about the community wellness position." She tensed slightly. "What is it?" "The initiative will be announced at the Riverside Foundation Gala next weekend. As the new director, you would be expected to attend." "The gala?" Maya echoed. The annual event was Riverside's most prestigious gathering, bringing together executives, investors, and Seattle's elite. "I don't think I'm ready for that kind of public appearance, especially not—" She gestured to her pregnant belly. "You underestimate yourself," Daniel said gently. "But there's another reason I want you there. Robert and Catherine Vance will be attending. So will Ryan." Understanding dawned. "You want to confront him publicly." "I want him to face the consequences of his actions," Daniel corrected. "And yes, having you there, successful, composed, leading our most significant new initiative, would send a powerful message." It was manipulative, Maya realized, but also undeniably satisfying to contemplate. After months of feeling powerless, the idea of reclaiming her narrative held a certain appeal. "I don't have anything to wear to a gala," she said, the practical concern emerging first. "Especially not at 8 months pregnant." Daniel smiled. "Sandra can help with that. She has remarkable connections with maternity boutiques." As they left the restaurant, Daniel insisted on driving her home. The night air was crisp with approaching winter, and Sophia was particularly active, her movements visible beneath Maya's dress. In the warm interior of his car, Maya found herself studying Daniel's profile as he drove, wondering how much of her initial judgment had been unfair. "Why did you really ask me that question yesterday?" she said suddenly. "Why didn't you ever tell me? It seemed so personal, not like a CEO addressing a former employee." Daniel was quiet for a moment, his eyes on the road. "Because I meant it personally," he finally said. "Maya, I noticed you from your first day at Riverside. Your intelligence, your creativity, your genuine passion for your work. They stood out immediately." Maya stared at him, stunned. "I barely spoke to you back then. We had several conversations at company events. You probably don't remember. Why would you? I was just another executive to you, but I remember every one of them." He glanced at her briefly before returning his attention to the road. "I wanted to ask you to dinner a dozen times, but it never seemed appropriate given our positions in the company. And then suddenly you were with Ryan, and then gone." The revelation left Maya speechless. All this time, she'd assumed she'd been invisible in the corporate hierarchy, just another marketing manager among many. When I saw you yesterday counting coins for prenatal vitamins, Daniel continued, his voice roughening with emotion, I felt like I'd failed you somehow, that if I'd found the courage to reach out, things might have been different. They had reached her apartment building. Daniel parked, but made no move to exit the car, letting his words hang in the quiet space between them. You couldn't have known, Maya said finally. I didn't even know what was happening until I was already trapped in it. I know that rationally, he acknowledged. But seeing you again, it felt like a second chance I didn't deserve. Sophia kicked hard against Maya's ribs, breaking the moment with her insistent movements. Daniel's eyes dropped to where Maya's hand pressed against her belly, a small smile touching his lips. She's active tonight, Maya said softly. May I? Daniel asked, his hand hovering hesitantly near her belly. Maya nodded, guiding his hand to where Sophia was kicking. His eyes widened as he felt the baby's movements, wonder crossing his features. That's incredible, he whispered. In that moment, sitting in the warm car with Daniel's hand on her belly and Sophia moving beneath his palm, Maya made her decision. She would take the job. She would attend the gala. She would face Ryan and the Vances with her head held high. Not for revenge, but for justice. For herself and for Sophia. I'll be at the gala, she told Daniel as she prepared to exit the car. And I'll make sure the community wellness initiative is everything you envision. His smile was warm, relieved, and something more. Something that sent a flutter of unexpected anticipation through her chest. 1 week, he said, his eyes holding hers. A lot can change in a week. Indeed it could, Maya thought. In just 24 hours, her world had already shifted on its axis. The night of the gala arrived with breathtaking speed. The week had been a whirlwind of preparations, signing employment contracts, meeting with Sandra to select an appropriate gown, a stunning emerald silk with elegant draping that accommodated her pregnant belly beautifully, and arranging for Mrs. Patterson to be on call in case she needed to leave early. As Daniel escorted her into the grand ballroom of the Riverside Foundation Gala, Maya felt a curious sense of homecoming mingled with transformation. These were familiar faces in a familiar setting, but she was no longer the person she had been when she worked here before. Conversations paused as they entered, curious eyes taking in Daniel's hand at the small of her back, the confident set of her shoulders beneath the emerald silk, her unmistakably pregnant silhouette. Sandra had done wonders with her hair and makeup, but Maya knew the real change was deeper in the steel that adversity had forged within her. Ready? Daniel murmured, his breath warm against her ear. Before she could answer, she saw them across the room. Robert Vance, impressive in his tuxedo. Catherine, elegant in champagne-colored satin. And between them, looking polished and self-assured, Ryan Barrett. Her ex-boyfriend's eyes met hers across the crowded room, confusion giving way to shock as recognition dawned. His gaze dropped to her pregnant belly, and she watched the color drain from his face. Maya held his gaze steadily, allowing herself one small, knowing smile before turning away. More than ready, she told Daniel, accepting a glass of sparkling water from a passing waiter. Let's make this night unforgettable. And as Daniel led her forward to introduce her as Riverside's newest executive, his hand warm and steady at her back, Sophia kicking gently as if in approval. Maya realized that the coins she'd counted just 1 week ago had led her not to poverty, but to possibility. Sometimes the universe worked in mysterious ways, bringing help from unexpected quarters and second chances when they were needed most. Behind her, Ryan Barrett watched in growing dismay as his carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Ahead of her, a future stretched bright with promise, not just for herself, but for Sophia. And beside her stood Daniel, whose compassion had sparked a chain of events that would change everything. One moment of kindness in a pharmacy had led them here. One question, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" had opened a door she thought forever closed. Maya raised her glass in a silent toast to new beginnings, to second chances, and to the infinite possibilities that awaited beyond the coins she'd once counted with trembling hands.